Well, darn, heck, gee whiz, golly. Yeah, those words aren't going to do it. The Cougs fall one bucket short. I'm Craig Cohen. Today on Houston Matters, we recap last night's NCAA championship as the Houston Cougars lick their wounds.
Houston Matters with Craig Cohen is a production of Houston Public Media with support from Baylor College of Medicine.
Coming up this hour, we check in with Houston Public Media's Mark Norris in San Antonio and discuss last night's game with Chris Gardner from Houston Roundball Review. Also ahead, Cougs Uber fan and longtime NCAA broadcaster Jim Nance and Houston Comets great Cynthia Cooper. Then our Joshua Zinn reports from a Women in Industry conference held in Galveston designed to help women advance in STEM careers. Plus, one of the founders of the Russian feminist protest art collective Pussy Riot. We'll start with a news update from NPR and News 88.7. Stay with us. This is Houston Matters. I'm Craig Cohen. Good morning.
National championship is in the balance. 13 seconds left. Florida leads it by 2.
Uzan gonna go.
Uzan, give it up. Cryer, 6 seconds, 5 seconds. Sharp.
He walked. He can't touch it.
He can't. 1 second. And it's over. Florida is back on top of the college basketball world. Championship madness. It's a great day to be a Gator. They win the national title.
Ian Eagle there with a call for CBS. So close and yet so far. The Houston Cougars fell 2 points short of a national men's college basketball championship last night, falling 65-63 to the Florida Gators. In a near reversal of Saturday's come-from-behind win in their Final Four matchup against Duke, this time it was the Cougs who led most of the way, building a 12-point second-half lead, only to see the Gators charge back to take a last-minute lead and hang on. In a moment, we'll get some insight into the atmosphere inside the Alamo Dome from Houston Public Media's Mark Norris. But first, to the game itself. Chris Gardner covers basketball and owns the Houston Roundball Review. Chris, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm all right. And yourself?
I've been better. Eric, I'm a UH alum, so I've been better.
Yeah, I understand. Were you, first of all, surprised by this role reversal, that the Cougs controlled most of last night's game only to fade late in the second half? So much a flip of what we saw against Duke.
I was surprised a little bit, but based on how Florida had come back many times during the tournament, this is what they do. So I was concerned that if the Cougs did get a double-digit lead, would they hold on to it? And they didn't, unfortunately. They had uncharacteristic turnovers down the stretch. In the last 2 minutes, they could turn it over 4 times, and that's not like the Cougars throughout this season. And Florida, to give them credit, they did just enough to eke out the victory.
Cougs coach Kelvin Sampson called it, quote, incomprehensible that his team couldn't get a shot off in its final 2 possessions. How much of that is on them, and how much is credit to the Gators' defense stifling any opportunity to shoot?
I'm going to say it's more on the Cougs. Emmanuel Sharp is an important, vital part to the Cougs' success this season. And just unfortunately, he had the 2 turnovers in the closing moments. And the last one, with 6 seconds left, he did not get a shot off. And that's disappointing, and it really unlike Sharp because he is such a fearless shooter. He's not worried about his shot being blocked. He always takes the shot, whether it's 30 feet away, whatever, he takes the shot, gets shot off. And his teammate, Juwan Roberts, mentioned in the locker room, he did not see what happened. While he saw it, Emmanuel leaped up to take the shot. So he turned around to get ready to box out for a rebound opportunity. And next thing he knows, he looks back, the ball is still on the floor, bounced in front of Emmanuel. And that was the end of the game.
It's easy to fixate on those final moments, and understandable and frustrating. But what maybe are some other factors that dictated, at least to you, the way last night's game played out?
The first half, Houston forced Florida into 9 turnovers, but they only scored 4 points off those turnovers. And they only led by 3 points at halftime because of that. So that was a concern and a red flag right there. And other things, Manuel Sharp, L.J. Cryer, Milos Uzan, Houston's 3 guards, all shot poorly in the game. And it's very difficult for Houston to win a game when all 3 of them struggle to make shots.
Coming into this game, it seemed like a match pitting the very best defense against the very best offense in college basketball. Is that ultimately how it played out?
Somewhat. Florida plays great defense as well. Neither team shot the ball well in the game, and Houston did a great job of limiting Florida's All-American Walter Clayton Jr. He only scored 11 points. He and Elijah Martin, his teammate, I think combined to only make 5 of 20 shots. So it wasn't like there was a lot of elite shooting taking place in the game. To Florida's credit, they did just enough to pick up the 2-point win.
I'm sure it's frustrating for you and other UH alums and Cougs fans, but it's also kind of hard to knock a team that went 35-5 on the season and came within a bucket of a national championship. How do you think we will remember this Houston Cougars season?
I hope fans, supporters remember all the great accomplishments of this team. This was a magical season for them. Coach Sampson told the media after the game that he told his players, be disappointed in the loss, but not disappointed in the season and the effort they put forth in the game. They reached the title game. They accomplished, I think, the most wins in program history, and they'll be back. They got a solid core returning and then a lot of talented freshmen coming in.
Chris Gardner covers basketball and owns the Houston Roundball Review. Chris, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. You take care.
You too. And joining us now from San Antonio, the site of last night's championship, is Houston Public Media's Mark Norris. Mark, good morning.
Good morning, Craig. How are you?
I'm all right. And yourself?
I'm doing okay. And it was probably one of the most shocking final minutes I've ever seen in a sporting event. And I know all the UH supporters there felt the same way.
How would you describe the atmosphere inside the Alamo Dome, not just there in those final minutes, but before, then during, and then after the game?
Yeah, if you have any association with the University of Houston, I think you should be proud about the way alumni and fans showed out. There was a big opportunity for them to take over the arena with Duke losing, and that happened. The way that was lit, you can't really see the upper bowl, but in the lower bowl, I would say it was 65 to 70% University of Houston people, and for most of the game, they were very loud and very into it.
Of course, this championship was held just a few hours west on I-10, so I imagine the Houston faithful not only showed up at the game itself, but that you might have seen a lot of evidence of them around town the last few days.
Absolutely, yeah. We got here on Friday, and whether it's been on the Riverwalk or the multiple pep rallies that have been held, anything associated with UH has had very strong attendance. And I think you pointed out the proximity made it really easy for folks to be able to just drive in, and whether it was just go to a game or spend the entire weekend here, there was plenty of red visible over the past few days.
You posted an article about last night's game at HoustonPublicMedia.org where you wrote, instead of exorcising the ghosts of Final Fours past, Cougar basketball history now has a new one. Will it be hard for Coug fans and the program itself to think of this year's squad without thinking about how the season ended one bucket short?
Yeah, respectfully, this is a take it to your grave type of loss. You led nearly the entire game. In 40 minutes, Florida was only ahead for 64 seconds. And if you have that type of ratio, then you have to win. And the fact that there's just more heartbreak in a national championship game just mirrors other painful parts of UH's history. They've now been in 7 Final Fours, 3 national title games, and they have no titles to show for it. That is the most appearances without a title in men's college basketball history. So just more pain and just incredible heartbreak from what I saw from the players and the people who went to the game last night.
Houston Public Media's Mark Norris in San Antonio. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Up next, longtime NCAA broadcaster Jim Nantz and 4-time Houston Comets WNBA champ Cynthia Cooper. Stay with us as Houston Matters continues. This is Houston Matters. I'm Craig Cohen. Among the attendees and Houston Cougs supporters at last night's game was the longtime broadcaster of NCAA tournaments like this, Jim Nantz. He is a UH alum, KUHF alum for that matter. While he's still very active in sportscasting, he's on his way to Augusta to call this weekend's Masters Golf Tournament. Nantz decided to end his long run calling NCAA tournaments in 2023 when the Final Four was held here in Houston. That's when I caught up with him to discuss his career, beginning with his time at UH. I think a lot of longtime Houstonians know that you were a local sportscaster for a time here after college. I wonder how many know you were a student public address announcer at UH and that you hosted the Guy Lewis TV show when you were an undergrad. How consequential were those opportunities to jump-starting your broadcasting career?
Well, they were huge. Those really were my entry points into the business. The first time I ever really worked with a mic was on KUHF radio. So there's relation for you. And then the first real live work I was doing was being inside of the old Hoff-Heinz Pavilion, being the public address announcer while I was still a student living in the dormitories on campus. My first television experience of my career was hosting Guy Lewis's television show. I think the old guard Houston faithful, University of Houston faithful, still remember that. But I'm so proud to be able to have that history as a part of my foundation, the bedrock of my career. It really launched my career. Was not only the U of H, but the market and the city. It's been good to me. It's been good to the Nance family.
Do you remember what you first said when you opened up a microphone on KUHF?
Well, it wasn't hello, friends at the time. No, I don't remember. What I would do is I would put together a sportscast. And there was a great guy on campus who guided us. His name was Arvil Cochran. I didn't ever call him by that, of course. He was Mr. Cochran. And he led us through how to put a show and a sportscast together. There was another aspiring broadcaster in school, a couple of them. And we would go in during the day and we would take sound bites and write script and record our little 3 or 4 minute sports updates. And they would go up on the air on KUHF. And being at KUHF, actually, Craig gave me the ability to get a credential to go cover the games around town. And I maximized that opportunity to go to the Rockets or go to the Houston Oilers games or the Astros with my press credential by way of KUHF. And that led to me meeting people in the industry who then gave me opportunity to come over and work at their places for volunteer work initially, but eventually it led to some paying jobs. And I had a lot of people who lifted me on their shoulders and believed in me. And I'm forever grateful.
What are your enduring memories of the time you have spent in Houston all these years?
Well, I've kind of taken it all in as a Houstonian. You know, listen, I've had many events since I left to go work. Once I graduated from the U of H in 1981, I moved away in 82 to go work in Salt Lake City to be the Utah Jazz announcer and anchor on the CBS affiliate. And 3 years after that, I was working for CBS. So I never got back there to reside. But I've been back there many times. I've hosted charity events. We have a Alzheimer's Research Institute over at Houston Methodist that we founded and funded initially and have gone all over the country stumping for awareness and more fundraising for the Nance National Alzheimer's Center at Houston Methodist, a big part of my life. That brings me there all the time. School functions have brought me back on numerous occasions, but mainly it's just coming back and forth to come see family and family events.
As you look back on the years you've covered NCAA tournaments, are there any particular games, moments, or experiences that stand out to you most?
I think that there are two that kind of stand out. The 2016 Final Four was in Houston. Villanova beat North Carolina on a shot at the buzzer.
Go length of the court with Archie Diacono. 3 seconds at midcourt. Jenkins gives it to Jenkins for the championship. Champions with Jenkins hitting the winner at the buzzer.
That was an incredible scene. And in 2010 in Indianapolis, Butler was taking on mighty Duke in the championship game and came down to a half-court heave as the clock struck 0 and the ball rattled around the rim and almost fell for what would have been one of the great, most magnificent jaw-dropping finishes in the history of basketball, or any sport for that matter.
Butler has no timeouts.
So they would hope that Zubek makes this.
Not going to try. It's Hayward pulling it down, getting around Zubek at midcourt, launches the shot. Oh, it almost went in! Almost went in, and Duke is the king of the dance. 2010.
It was so much that happened in that millisecond. People holding their breath and waiting to see if it was going to go in or not. Yeah, there's just so many. It's hard, Craig, to pin it down. But the main memories are just the cities I've visited and the people I've worked with. There's just a really close camaraderie there, lifelong friendships of people that have been a part of this festival, because that's what the NCAA tournament really is. It's a celebration. Your team makes it. Somebody's representing your area, your region, your conference. Everybody's got a bracket filled out. And it's a great slice of Americana. It just completely captures the American sports fan for a month. And I've loved being one of the voices trusted to try to document what's taking place.
You mentioned those hold your breath moments. Of course, they occur in all sports. You're going to continue your work on NFL and PGA Tour broadcasts, including future Super Bowls and the Masters. Do you prefer the more amped up environments surrounding college basketball and the NFL, or the most of the time more docile environs of golf?
That's a great question. I love the blend. I love the fact that there's a range there that you can show, what you've worked your whole life to do, to try to create a skill level where you can call a football game or a basketball game and match your voice against a fevered pitch, that energy wave that's around you that you can't see, but you can feel it, you can hear it, and you try to cut just above it. And then I love the fact that golf gives you this kind of conversational, fireside storytelling, conversational chat kind of nature to it. Craig Cohen for birdie over at the 5th. This was a moment ago, and there he is moving up the leaderboard. He now leads Tiger Woods by 1. It's a different thing. And it's, you react to the moment and the environs that you're in. You pitch your voice up against it. You get that. You completely understand that. I know that as a skilled broadcaster, that where you find yourself, whatever that arena might be, you know how to find your voice to where it's being heard. And that's the best way I can express what I'm doing when I'm trying to articulate a sport against a crowd in a football stadium or a basketball environment versus a golf tournament where it's quiet, peaceful, and church-like.
I appreciate the call, but it should have been something more like, here's Craig Cohen, and he hit another tree.
That, unfortunately, is going to lead to a big number here at the 16th.
There you go.
It ricocheted off the tree, and Cohen's going to have to drop another ball because that's out of bounds. Let's go back over to 12.
UH alum and longtime broadcaster Jim Nantz. He was in attendance for last night's NCAA championship final, and he is on his way to Augusta, Georgia this morning to call the Masters tournament this weekend. We spoke in 2023. While the Cougs fell just short last night, Houston does have some championship history, including the Astros of 2017 and 2022, and the Houston Rockets of 1994 and 95. And in between them, the Houston Comets, champions of the WNBA from 1997 to 2000. Among their stars, Cynthia Cooper. Houston Matters producer Laura Walker caught up with Cooper recently at Houston's Ensemble Theater, which is presenting a play inspired by the early days of the W.
I'm a Houstonian now. Shoot, I've been here for so long. So I'm a Houstonian. That's what I call myself. Doggone it. I claim it. I see women's basketball growing and growing. It's just amazing where women's basketball, the W, is today. I love it. I love to see all the young talent. I love to see the models / superstars on the basketball court. And I just love the energy that the W has generated across the country and around the world.
How has the landscape of the sport changed since you were playing in the W?
Well, we were new. We were new. People didn't know who we were. We had to introduce ourselves not only to our own city, but to the country. And we also had to introduce the country to women's professional basketball, not the Olympics, not college basketball. We are the pros. And so we had to introduce them to that, which was great. It was great because you get a chance to lay the foundation. You get a chance to leave a legacy. And so for the Houston Comets, it was amazing to get out in the community and be a part of everything that was WNBA right from the beginning on the ground level. And to see the energy and the excitement generated today is just amazing.
You're here today as part of a celebration for the Ensemble Theater's production of Flex, a play about high school girls aspiring to play in college and the WNBA. How does it feel to be part of the history that inspired the vision of this play?
Well, I mean, it's amazing because remember when I grew up, we didn't have a professional league to aspire to, and we didn't dream of playing professional basketball when I was in high school. So to be a part of a production, a play like Flex, and them tell the story of this young love of basketball, this young energy of basketball, and now they aspire not to just play college, not to just play in high school, but to be a pro, to play in the W. That right there is a dream come true.
You previously coached for Texas Southern University's women's basketball team, Prairie View and A&M University, and the Phoenix Mercury in the W. What are you seeing in the next generation of basketball players, and what impact do you think they will have on the WNBA moving forward?
Well, I think the impact is that they're talented. What I'm seeing right now is a whole different level of talent. When you talk about the Juju Watkins, when you talk about the different players, the Paige Beckers, that when you talk about those players and when you see how talented they are, you could tell that they dreamed of playing professional basketball as they grew up, as they played AAU basketball, as they played high school basketball. They had someone to look up to in the W. We only had the NBA players. Now they have players in the WNBA that they can look up to and aspire to be and model their game after. And so I love where we are as far as the talent goes, and I love the projection, the energy, where I think they'll be in 10 years from now, because they're just going to get stronger. They're just going to get better.
You were part of one of the most dominating franchises in WNBA history, the Houston Comets. Do you keep up with any of your old teammates? What have your relationships been like post-WNBA?
I stay in touch with, I call her T-Bone, so Tina Thompson, Cheryl Swoops. I'm in touch with Jeanette Arcane through Facebook, Instagram, whichever one we choose. So I'm in touch with a lot of my teammates, Coquise Washington. So it's been great to maintain those bonds, that sisterhood throughout the years after winning, 4 championships in a row.
With all the hype and buzz surrounding the WNBA right now, and even WNBA player Angel Reese saying she would have interest in playing in Houston, would you like to see the return of the Comets?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, Houston definitely needs the fans. The city of Houston needs a WNBA franchise. I think it's about time that we brought them back. And there's some really special things could happen as well. I mean, we could retire jerseys like Cheryl Swoops and Tina Thompson, even Jeanette Arcane. So we could do some really special things if they brought back the Comets. So I'm looking forward to the WNBA choosing Houston as an expansion city.
What piece of advice would you give girls growing up that would have helped you while you were in the process of building your legacy?
I would say have confidence. I didn't necessarily have confidence growing up. I didn't have a lot of examples of what I should do. I had several examples and tons of examples of what I shouldn't do growing up in the inner city. But what I would say is stay the course, stay your path, and you're good enough. You're good enough, you're strong enough, you're brave enough, and you can really do anything you set your mind to. There are going to be obstacles, but know that your passion and your work ethic, the cornerstones, and your perseverance are the cornerstones of overcoming those obstacles.
Former Houston Comet Cynthia Cooper talking with Houston Matters' Laura Walker. Flex, a play inspired by WNBA players like Cooper, is on stage at Houston's Ensemble Theater through April 13th. We'll tell you more about that on Wednesday's show. Just ahead, how an event in Galveston aims to help further women's careers in STEM fields. And later, one of the founders of the protest art collective Pussy Riot. Stay with us as Houston Matters continues. This is Houston Matters. I'm Craig Cohen. The 2025 Women in Industry Conference just took place at Galveston's Moody Gardens Convention Center. It's an annual event organized by the Texas Gulf Coast Community Colleges Consortium. This is a group of 9 different colleges in the region. The event's designed to help women find opportunities in some historically male-dominated industries like energy and construction. Houston Matters' Joshua Zinn reports.
It's a busy scene in the main exhibit hall at the Moody Gardens Convention Center, where hundreds of young women are chatting with reps from major companies like ExxonMobil, Chevron Phillips, Oxy, Shell, and others. The Women in Industry Conference puts attendees in contact with these industry professionals who can give them insight into how they might join the workforce. Vera Lewis Jasper is the Dean for Technical and Professional Education at Galveston College and the lead coordinator of the event. For her, hosting this event is about helping women from a variety of backgrounds navigate local industries.
So it was important for us to target women because we thought there was a great population that did not know about these high-demand, high-wage jobs. We also thought that there was a population that was ready to go to work. So we targeted unemployed, underemployed women who were looking to transition And then our high school students who just were not sure if that 4-year university was for them, they could come to this conference, get some confidence, go to a 2-year college, and then go to work.
And as dean for a community college, Louis Jasper wants this conference to highlight the role institutions like hers can play in that process.
It's right there in the main community college. So we're in the community, we're there, and we accept all students. So if you're not a top-tier student in high school, we are there for you to help you bridge that. Whether you are looking to do a transfer degree, so I'm coming in, I want to major in English, and I want to transfer to a 4-year degree, we're there to help you do that. But if you're looking for some technical skills, you know, whether that's a welding, whether that's HVAC, whether that's plumbing, whatever that is, we can help you do that. If you're looking to be a nurse and the 4-year nursing program is not for you, we have a 2-year program that will get you that same RN license. So we are in the community to help the community be educated so that they can go back and be productive in the community. This conference helps because they get to see people who have done it.
Many of the attendees are high school students who will no doubt be looking for what comes next, and local school districts are doing what they can to prepare them. Here is Galveston ISD's Jennifer Edenfield.
Within Galveston ISD, one of the things that I've really tried to do and work hard at is providing our students with a lot of hands-on real-world opportunities. For example, our clinical rotations. We have students that currently are working with UTMB. We're currently in the process of working on an MOU with Shriners Hospital to where it really kind of gives those students within the health science area different avenues to where they can really kind of see what is all out there. But then, for example, welding. We have students that are doing internships with different companies down at the Port of Galveston. We have our automotive kids that are doing internships here on the island. So we really do try to provide them with a lot of hands-on opportunities, and those are just a few, but that to me is the biggest thing. And then we also incorporate industry-based certifications inside of each one of our programs so that our students aren't just coming out with a series of courses, but they're also coming out with 1 to multiple certifications that make them more marketable for the area that they're going into.
Edenfield, who is the district's Director of Career and Technical Education and Advanced Academics, also hopes that students attending the conference don't limit their possibilities.
The thing that I really want them to take away is knowing that there are all of these different companies and things out there that do hire students like them. They do hire women. They do hire women of different ethnicities and things. And so I think that that is super important for them to know and to understand, but that yes, there are jobs here on the island, but that there are also jobs in other different counties, like Brazoria County down in Freeport, and things that, you know, all they have to do is just travel 35, 40 miles and they can have such a great career. They don't just have to stay here. And so that to me is what's important, is I want them to see that, you know, the future is so bright for them.
Going beyond high school, Sharon Pagan is a student advisor at Galveston College, and she says that while it's important for women to develop the physical skill sets and certifications for whatever job they're looking for, one of the benefits of this conference is working on the less tangible requirements of entering the workforce.
The importance of soft skills. You know, all our sponsors tell us they know we're going to release students with strong technical skills, but they're also looking for people that are effective communicators and, you know, can organize their day, work independently. And so they get the opportunity to talk to these breakout session leaders and listen and hear kind of what's been so instrumental in their success, to learn kind of what steps that they will need to follow. So again, they can be successful kind of long-term employees of these great companies.
And it's not all about being in the field and getting your hands dirty. For younger attendees who may not even know what skills they should work on or what they want to do, organizers want them to be aware of all the different opportunities that span a variety of interests. Sally K. Janes is Associate Vice Chancellor for Continuing and Professional Development at San Jacinto College.
Because many times they don't know what they don't know. They don't know what's available to them. And so we try, and particularly through this conference, Women in Industry, we try to show them all the different aspects. It's not just being out in the field on a glycol unit, but it could be inside, dealing with the business aspect, doing with purchasing, all those kinds of things they can be a part of depending upon what their interest and really what their skills are, what they tend to lean towards.
To provide all of that insight are the women who have done the thing and made their careers in these fields. Janice Lucas is a site superintendent for ExxonMobil and has been with the company for over 20 years. She often gets asked about working while having a family life.
Probably my favorite question is it allows me to bring in my family. One of the questions is like, is it hard in working in industry? And I think they always mean like physically. And for me, really I say hardest or challenge is when I did become a mom, but the fulfillment of being a mom and having a good career has made it worthwhile. But it is just finding that right work-life balance. But I will let people know that it can be done.
Amanda Nost is president of the North America West and Gulf Coast regions for Worley, an engineering, procurement, and construction company, and she is eager to see the changing face of the construction industry in particular as younger women get involved.
It is changing. We need it to change. We don't have enough labor workforce to support all of these projects coming up globally, but specifically here in the Gulf Coast. And again, the different ways of working with AI and manufacturing and what have you, we need a younger generation, including females, in this industry for us to be successful.
So who are the women benefiting from all of this? Maya Avila-Robbins and Aaliyah Malvo are welders at Galveston College who spoke about their takeaways from being here.
Confidence, especially support, seeing other females in this male-dominant industry. Seeing other females around you working in the same field builds up a confidence.
Like Maya said, a lot of just confidence, but it's cool. I've been here twice before. It's cool to see how much it's grown and how much the younger people are coming. You see them younger and younger. They have a kind of upbeat tempo. It's yeah, I'm coming into this field.
For them, welding was a choice informed by their own family life and experiences.
I grew up with uncles who were in carpentry, and they always told me I wasn't allowed in the shop because I was a female. So I wanted to prove them wrong. So I decided to do welding. So I chose to do welding my sophomore year in high school. And ever since then, I fell in love with it. And I love to prove them wrong, saying I do belong in the shop.
Kind of similar reasons. My brother was a welder in high school. And then he was supposed to go for it full time because my mom was like, get him a job that makes you money. And he was like, this makes money, right? And at the time I was going for engineering. I was like, engineers make money, I'll make money, it's cool. But then I learned engineers are mainly in offices. And I was like, I can't do that. I have to be out doing something. So I tried out welding. And then it was like filling my brother's shoes at the same time finding something that I want to do, basically.
And as attendees who have a little bit more experience than their younger peers, they've got some simple advice.
Well, getting all the opportunities. Later in the future, there's going to be even more opportunities now for the younger generation to work in the fields. More females, more young people working in this industry. An advice I would give them is, you got this.
Probably just dip their toes in the water. A lot of them come into it and they're kind of scared. It's like, oh, I'm going into a male-dominated field. And it's like, boo, whatever. They get the jitters, right? And I think maybe coming to this conference will maybe open them up to a world that's maybe it's not so scary. So just building up the confidence to even get yourself out there. Apply yourself,
For Houston Matters, I'm Joshua Zinn.
And still to come, one of the founders of the global feminist protest art movement, Pussy Riot. Stay with us as Houston Matters continues.
My name is Lucas Fong, and I'm the Houston Youth Poet Laureate. So one of the things that deeply inspires my writing is that both of my parents are first-generation immigrants. My dad is an immigrant from Taiwan, and my mother is a refugee from the Vietnam War. And so something that's very important for me in my writing is being able to represent that community and make sure that people are well informed about what it means to be an immigrant and a refugee in America. One of the most important things about poetry is that it brings people together as a community. And so I think that it's important that people embrace poetry and creative writing as an art form in order to be able to express themselves however they wish to and to be able to connect with other people. So when I'm not writing poetry, some of the things I like to do is, so I'm actually a musician, I play the trumpet. Beyond the Astros, I also like to watch the Texans, so I like watching football. And actually, even though it's Dallas, I also like to watch the Dallas Cowboys. So all things Texas, I love my sports teams. The poem I'm going to read is A Vietnamese Promise. A Vietnamese Promise is about my mother's experience as a Vietnamese refugee. This poem is both a love letter to my mother and to my grandmother. And so in this poem, I hope to carry on their legacy and to spread the message of their story and my mother's love for her family and for the family that I would never get to meet. So my grandmother and aunts passed away long before I was born, before I was able to meet them. And in this way, I feel like I'm able to communicate with them, even if only partially, through this poem, which is both my interpretation and my message and the story that I share as their son and their grandson. A Vietnamese Promise. To speak in our mother's tongue is to speak only partially in Vietnamese, but entirely in war. Knowing without touching is like kissing without loving. If nothing lasts forever, then I'm writing to you from the voice of an endangered species. Too much joy is lost in its desperation to keep it. When does our suffering end? When can my lips sing your name and have it mean only your name and not the things you left behind? They say that nothing can last forever, but they're just scared that it will last longer than they can love it. And perhaps it is the saddest thing ever, a comma that's forced to become a period. Because the sunsets, like fireflies, exist only on the verge of their own disappearing. To be beautiful, you must be seen. To be loved, you must be prepared for love to leave. Suddenly, I find myself enveloped by the glimmer of your memories, hoping to be carried away by the river, but my feet are cement, as your scent helplessly fades from my consciousness. Now, I try to remember you for longer than I have known you. I miss you more than I remember you. I'm Houston Youth Poet Laureate Lucas Fong. April is National Poetry Month, and you're listening to Houston Matters with Craig Cohen.
In 2012, the Russian feminist protest art collective Pussy Riot made international news when they staged a ski mask-clad punk rock protest inside Moscow's Christ the Savior Cathedral. 3 of the 4 participants were arrested, 2 spent time in prison. The group became a symbol of resistance to Russian President Vladimir Putin's regime. Nadia Telekonikova was one of the 2 imprisoned. She'll speak here in Houston at a University of Houston Hobby School of Public Affairs event April 17th. Ahead of that event, she tells Houston Matters producer Michael Haggerty what her group's actions showed the world about Putin's Russia and explains how her group went about staging acts of political protest through art.
Actionism, as we call it, is a very particular type of art that, it requires you need to really study the space when you're going to be doing an action. And then you need to come up with something that you can do really quickly before you get arrested. And you want to think about the scale. Because the bigger thing you do, the more provocative at times or witty, the more response you're going to get. But with the time like Pussy Riot came around, I had experience of 4 years of doing this stuff. So in a way, Pussy Riot was easier because with our previous collective, we would always come up with different actions every single time. And with Pussy Riot, my idea was that you should create something like almost something that could be easily replicable. You create visual language, this women feminist superheroes in bright balaclavas, bright clothes with guitars, shouting something about feminism, shouting anti-Putin lyrics. And in a way, you can plant them in different environments. And yes, you'll write different songs and think about different choreographic moves, but the basis is always going to be the same. So it was simple.
So, what brought you and your group to the attention of the world was in 2012 when you did this protest and action at the cathedral called Punk Prayer. This was at the Christ the Savior Cathedral in Moscow, where you and 3 other members of your group don those signature brightly colored masks that you're known for and start dancing and kicking and kneeling and crossing yourselves as one of your songs plays in the background. Pretty quickly, you and 2 others were arrested, and you spent some time in prison. So obviously that minute or two came at a pretty high cost for you personally. So help me understand what all motivated you to stage that action, and what were you hoping it would achieve?
Well, it all started from my interest in Russian religious philosophy. It's a very fascinating issue. They are all about reforming the Russian Orthodox Church and make it more modern, more free, and encouraging more creativity within the church. I'm not a religious person, but I was just, as a philosophy student, I was interested in this topic. And then there is just my endless fascination with Orthodox music, prayers, the beauty of Orthodox icons, and it all encapsulated in the action Punk Prayer, where we made a modern twist on the old form of a prayer. We came to the place where women are not supposed to be, the place from which you read a sermon. In Orthodox Christianity, women are not allowed to be priests, and they have a very secondary role. Basically, they only allowed to give birth and to be silent. So we've decided to break this tradition, and the idea was to establish proclaim the independence of women, their voice, and more than that, women who are openly against the government.
What was it like in those moments? I know you were, in this one particular, you were arrested eventually, but I mean, was it thrilling? Was it scary? All of the above, to do these bold moves and these bold actions in these public places that could be very costly for you?
It was the biggest amount of brain capacity was taken by simply technical calculations, how to do it quick enough before you get arrested, how to communicate with photographers and videographers so you have good footage, because it's very important. Then how to write a good press release and contact your friends, journalists. So what is thrilling for me is the moment of conceiving the creative idea. And then when it comes to realization, I mean, it's like pretty mundane. It's like doing any other sort of work. You conceive an article and like it's cool, it's thrilling, you come up with some sort of new idea. Sometimes it could be creative and sometimes it's just work, because you need to realize, like, you need to pour something that exists only in your brain onto the paper or into reality. And to me, the most sacred moment is the moment when the creative idea is being born. And it's very intimate and personal.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's sort of like, designing a house or something is maybe more creatively interesting than hammering the nails and actually building it.
Yes.
This is Houston Matters. I'm Michael Haggerty. I'm talking with Nadia Telekonikova. She's the creator of the Russian feminist protest art collective Pussy Riot. She'll speak at an event with the University of Houston's Hobby School of Public Affairs on Thursday, April 17th at 6 p.m. I know that to make art that makes an impact or creates any sort of change, you need eyes on it. And you and your group were very bold in the way you went about things. Was that just your style, or was that always part of the plan? We need to be bold to get eyes on what we do.
Yes, absolutely. You have to be bold to be able to break through the noise, the media noise. Living in Russia, I mean, now for sure, but back then as well, as an independent thinker, independent political artist, you don't have access to institutions that are ready to support you. So no museums, no galleries, no really very limited amount of media outlets that are ready to amplify your message. So if you create something in the quiet environment of your studio, chances are it's not going to be seen. Then if you bring it to the outside world, if you bring it to the Kremlin walls, then chances are that's going to get picked up. That's one factor. Another factor is that we wanted to make our art public. We thought that people who walk at the Red Square, they should hear our message, and that our art should belong to everyone. So we did it in public places.
The protest at the cathedral, I mean, that is how so much of the world learned about your story, and obviously it came with an immense personal price for you and your other members being arrested, serving time in prison. But what do you think that notoriety and attention accomplished for Russia and the issues there, and for the world's understanding of the human rights issues in your home country?
We were one of the first in this new wave of political repressions that started with the third presidential term of Vladimir Putin. And I think because we were one of the first ones, it created such a splash. I think there is another reason why our story in particular created a splash, because art is a universal language, and people didn't have to understand Russian in order to understand what we are about. It's a message that is so simple to understand for everyone, from kids to and really anyone. Maybe a dog even understand it. So what purpose did it serve? Well, I guess it started to explain to the world that Putin is a dictator. He's on a path to consolidate power even further, and he's not going to stop at breaking people's fates, lives, to achieve his very egotistical goals of holding on to the power and immense wealth that he accumulated over the years.
You were quite young when you got involved in the protest movement. I mean, what advice would you give to activists, whether it's in the United States or anywhere else, really, especially maybe young ones who want to affect change, who want to do something like you did or are doing? What lessons do you wish you'd learned earlier?
I think the biggest one is to follow your intuition and don't let older people discourage you. Well, definitely listen to what they have to say, but don't let their experience to block you from dreaming, because as you get older, you get more jaded and cynical. It's happening with every one of us. I see it's happening with me, and I'm trying to resist it. It's very hard because you get bitten up by life, and you realize that it's much harder to fulfill your ideals than it is when you're 17. And it's the beauty of being 17. That's the great gift of being a young person. And I think you, as a young person, you have to preserve it. You have to hold on to it, and you have to protect it and cherish it as the biggest gift that you have, that you will eventually lose with age. And when I was younger, my parents, teachers, all the jaded people around me were telling me that what I dream about is impossible. And I think it's toxic. Be kinder to yourself. How do you know if it's possible if you don't try? Dream and allow yourself to push the boundaries of what's possible.
Nadia Telekonikova. She's one of the founders of the Russian feminist protest art collective Pussy Riot. She spoke with our Michael Haggerty. Her group made headlines in 2012 after arrest and imprisonment for staging acts of protest against Vladimir Putin's regime. Telekonikova will speak at a University of Houston Hobby School of Public Affairs event on April 17th. And that'll do it for today's show. The Houston Matters team includes Michael Haggerty, also Joshua Zinn, Brenda Valdivia, Mincho Jacob, and Laura Walker. Jared Carroll's our technical director. On tomorrow's show, the world reacts to the Trump tariffs. RFK Jr. endorses the MMR vaccine. Governor Abbott finally calls a special election in the 18th District for November. And Fort Bend County Democrats call for County Judge K.P. George to resign after his arrest Friday. We'll seek context and clarity on these and other developments in our regular Wednesday political roundup. I'm Craig Cohen. Join us tomorrow for those and other Houston Matters.